I'm Katie. I'm the general manager here at ADAC, and we are so happy to welcome you to day 2 of Design ADAC Spring Market. I know many of you were here yesterday for our events, but we have 2 really fun days in store, Wednesday and Thursday. So just a reminder to pick up a copy of your event guide so that you know all that is happening in the building over the next 2 days. And if you're not registered for something that you want to register for, please do so because events do sell out. And also a reminder that tonight we have our Southeast Designers and Architect of the Year finalists meet and greet. So if you'd like to meet any of the amazing finalists for our prestigious award that we give each year with Veranda, then please come to the Ernest Gaspard showroom and meet all of those finalists. We'll have a fun time. Social media. Have some fun with us on social media. We loved seeing all of the fun that you all were having yesterday, and we want to have more fun today. So be sure to take pictures and videos, and just make sure you tag us at ADAC Atlanta, and then the hashtag is Design ADAC. And a reminder, too, that all of our speakers and media partners and showroom partners handles are in this event guide. So tag them, too, so they can see how much fun you're having. Our reels were filled yesterday, so thank you so much. I want to thank the Jane Group for this amazing stage decor. It looks beautiful, and all of the product, of course, came from ADAC. So if you want to know about any of the resources that the Jane Group used, there is a resource list in the back of our presentation room, so go check that out. I want to thank our sponsors this morning. That's Century and Hancock and Moore. Don't forget that we're going to go to the Century showroom after this presentation. That's Suite 212, and Corey will be signing copies of his new book, so make sure you get that while you're there. I want to thank Veranda, of course, Design ADAC and Veranda. We're a team every single spring market, and we're so grateful for the amazing team at Veranda. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Steele Marcoux, who is the editor-in-chief.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We have an excellent group of panelists with us this morning, and I'm thrilled to get the chance to introduce you to Aimee and Corey this morning. We're going to be talking about a new era of luxury. What could be more exciting than that? And we will be taking questions, so please do come up with questions. Don't be shy and save them to the end. So without further ado, welcome to Atlanta to both of you. Aimee Buccellato here on my left. Aimee is a partner of Schaefer Buccellato Architects. And I was thrilled to discover this morning in reading a little bit more about your bio that you were actually Gil's first employee when he started his firm, before entering into a stint in academia for a while, and then founding your own firm with your husband, and then now merging back with Gil's firm, which is quite the trajectory.
Yes. It was a circle.
I like it. We like circles. Importantly, Aimee is also the mother of 4, which is, a full-time job in and of itself. Yeah. But we're so happy to have you, and I also want to thank you for serving as one of our judges for the Southeastern Designer of the Year competition, along with Corey, who is here with us as well, Corey Damen Jenkins. Corey is an interior designer, also based in the New York area, though from Michigan. And Corey is known for his bold mix of color and pattern and his new take on traditional style, which, I don't know if you know this, but he has a fabulous book out along the same lines. In its 6th reprint, I think I read this morning. Potentially.
I think we're more like 7.
7 or 8 now at this point.
We have to update.
It's a great book. Please do pick up a copy in our reception following this. Corey has such a great story about how he founded his design firm, and many of you may be familiar, but I like to reshare it whenever I get the chance to. So you launched your business in the recession.
Yes.
And my favorite part of the story is how you knocked on 779 doors before getting your first client.
Yes.
Which is so impressive.
Insane.
That level of determination and commitment is very admirable. Since then, he has been on HGTV. He's written a very popular book. He has his own masterclass series, and of course, fabulous projects all around the world, and product design, including his collection with Hancock and Moore, which you can see in the Century showroom. So, let's get started with our conversation. I wanted to start off by asking both of you to kind of help us define what luxury means today. So in your own terms, what does luxury mean to you, both personally and professionally? Who wants to start?
Okay, wow. I mean, I think you mentioned I'm in a certain stage of my own life, so luxury is probably around just putting my feet up and not having to make anybody a school lunch. But I think so. So much of my life is focused around our practice, and as I was thinking about this topic of luxury and our practice, and certainly the way I was educated in architecture, both are very much based in the history of architecture and the study of past precedents to help us solve problems of the present. And I want to make sure I'm clarifying that term. When I say problems, I'm using it like in the academic sense. I don't want our clients to think that, what we think they bring to us are problems. They
challenges.
Don't. Yeah, challenges, exactly. Nevertheless, when we use precedents, we study the great old buildings, great houses. We are sort of always thinking about this question of like, what is luxury today? What has luxury been historically over time? And also what is still relevant? So I think the definition or certainly the way that our clients' vision of luxury it seems to be sort of centered is not as much around outward expressions of luxury. They seem to be much more thoughtful in thinking about more inward and private expressions or experiences of luxury. So we're seeing, I think, people really feel like luxury is about family. It's about personal comfort and wellness, things like that. So I think that's what's sort of on the top of my mind most these days, and the wonderful people that I get to work with, and it is really it's really rewarding, I think, as most of you probably are experiencing, working with people who are deeply connected to their families and to their rituals, and they want to come together and work with us to help develop spaces that nurture those rituals and maybe even come up with new ones.
Form new ones.
Form new ones. So those are my thoughts, I think. What about you, Corey?
Well, I just want to say you guys look amazing this
I forgot to say
morning.
that.
Everyone's so chic with all the color and pattern. I just love waking up first thing in the morning and seeing all these beautiful people here in Atlanta. Thanks for being with us. I think that luxury right now has definitely gone through a bit of a shift since the pandemic. The pandemic really sent everyone home to their rooms to think about themselves. And it's like the Diana Ross song that we all love. Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you, right? And so I think that now people have had a chance to kind of recenter and think about what is most important in life. Luxury is not pretentious. It is not pretentious. Real luxury is authentic. And I think that those of us who are working with wealthy clients, we find that the wealthiest and most powerful people in our orbits that we design homes for, they are not ones that show off a lot.
Yeah.
New money shows off a lot. New money is caught up in the prestige and the pomp and circumstance of being seen and being showcased. But people who are genuinely wealthy, whether they are financially wealthy or wealthy in soul, and there's a difference because you can be wealthy and also not be well off mentally and emotionally. Those people don't need to show off. And so I think to Aimee's point, it's all about enjoying the fine things of life when people are not watching. It's about taking out your fine china and enjoying that for dinner every night and not just waiting for the holidays. It's about having a nice antique goblet on your nightstand that you picked up from a estate sale. And drinking from that for your own personal comfort because you can, and it means something to you. That's luxury.
I love that. I think both of you are kind of, the things you're talking about really make me think about time and time spent together and time, meaningful time, and how we kind of want to spend time and where we want to spend time. And there's no greater gift than that. Before I ask the next question, I want to just give a prompt to start the slideshow. As proud as I am of this beautiful veranda cover and as excited as I am about our new newsletter, I want to make sure you all see Aimee and Corey's wonderful work. So if we can get the slides rolling, that would be great. You also both talked about sort of the difference between pretension and sort of, sort of authentic personal style. And this is something that actually a designer who was here with us at ADAC last year mentioned to me. But He said he always starts every project by asking his clients, is this project or is this space that we're working on together for others and kind of showing them something, or is it for you and more of an inward space? And how are you seeing a shift at all in the last 5 to 10 years? Maybe pandemic related, but not necessarily. Like, how does that engage, does that approach affect how you all work with clients? I'm curious.
Yeah, we often will ask clients in our questionnaire, what is the focus and goal of the spaces that we're designing? We do ask them in our questionnaire, do you entertain a lot? And we offer them groups as far as numbers. We'll say 5, 20, 50, 100 plus, right? And we have them circle how many people they see themselves on an average, entertaining in their home. Then we ask them, do you see yourself serving your guests yourself? Like potluck style, help yourself like a buffet moment. Do you see wait staff with servers, with hors d'oeuvres and drinks on trays? And by the way how they express themselves on those questionnaires, we figure out very quickly what their social needs are, and then we can determine from that point what the spaces needs to capture as far as furnishings and floor plan and egress and flow of traffic, I don't say human trafficking, human, but there's different types of human trafficking, I'm sorry.
The flow,
the flow, right, the flow. That will help us figure that out. Yeah. And I'll just stop there.
It's a great time to turn it over to Aimee.
Oh boy, I don't know anything about that.
That's good. That's a good thing.
It's interesting that you asked that question. Is it this or that? And I'm wondering, sort of, if it's both. So I think we've many wonderful clients. So grateful, and quite a few of them happen to have young families. And so I think what I'm seeing a lot now is, people who are quite devoted in their design decisions to their children, and then even like their children's children.
I love that.
And depending what
thinking,
like what
generation
we're looking at, how many and what they're planning for, and then how we're shaping space around what is both the present and then what the future looks like. And so I find myself oftentimes in conversations with our clients, young children, where the here and now feels a certain way, and the things that they feel that they need and the way they live their life now. I can say, this is great. We are going to be able to shape space around this life for you, and also think about, well, what does this look like when the kids are teenagers and they're different and their needs are different, and then when they're adults and they're bringing their children home to you. So I think it's kind of both. And you have people who are, individuals certainly making decisions about themselves and their own properties, but they're also outward focused, other focused, because that seems to be what's most sort of present in their priorities and their values. Kind of crafting, whether it's a space or a house or a compound of buildings that can flex over time.
Yeah, and maybe that's actually such a great representation of luxury today is the ability to be able to, have a home that you can grow and evolve with, and it can grow and adapt to your own family's evolution. I think that's really important. Let's talk, I'm gonna kind of tick these two things off the list because I know they're kind of buzzy, but everybody's talking about how luxury is wellness these days. How is wellness and the kind of obsession with wellness creeping into your practices? Or is it? I'm curious.
I think wellness is definitely something that our clients have as top of mind. And again, it was accentuated with the pandemic because the options to get out there and really enjoy oneself were greatly reduced. And so now people are very much focused on emotional and mental well-being, and not only for themselves or for their children. So we're doing a lot more with exterior spaces as far as really furnishing them out as beautifully with the same budgets as we're using for the interior spaces.
Kind of amazing.
Right, which is a really big jump.
Yeah.
Their children, we're putting a lot more into children's bedrooms than we've ever done before, really finishing them off. Guest rooms. We've been putting a lot of design effort into guest rooms. We did one where we upholstered the entire room with one black and white toile. And it was just she really invested in this guest room because
Yeah.
she wants her guests, when they come to visit them, to feel like they are escaping the norm and being treated at the very, height of hospitality. So I think that is here to stay.
Yeah.
It's very hard to put that
Back in the
ketchup
box.
back in the bottle
For
once
sure.
it's spilled, and it's
Yeah.
great because I think it's showing that humankind is moving more towards being kinder to itself and to its neighbors.
Yeah, that's
I hope at
That's really
least.
beautiful.
That's really great. I love, people investing in guest rooms and even, finishing kids' spaces.
Yeah, like all
I'm adding
over.
that to my to-do list.
Yeah, yeah. But it takes like interviewing the kid.
That's right, yeah.
And
So you're
sometimes-
involving them in the process?
Absolutely. We'll give the parents like first dibs on looking at the color palettes first
Yep.
to make sure there's nothing there that they absolutely don't want. We had one client who her favorite color, her daughter's favorite color is black. And
Fascinating.
Yeah, and the mother's like, I don't want black in my daughter's bedroom. She's gonna turn out like to be some goth thing, It's depressing,
moody.
it's heavy. But the daughter really wanted black.
Yeah.
And so we did black, white, and turquoise
That's fun.
with a little bit of gold
Yeah.
and silver.
Got to bring in the metallics.
Right, and so the mother weighed in, and then we gave the daughter like, a glimpse at what we were developing, and all parties walked away happy. So
Do you think it's important, I'm just picking up on that thread, do you think it's important to give children a sense of ownership over their own spaces to an extent?
if you want them to stay in there, yeah.
That's right, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
we
Keep coming back. Wait, do I want them?
Well, I mean, it's like, I think that, again, to your point about wellness,
Yeah.
parents are very much involved with what we're putting into the kids' rooms. Like, some parents don't want any TV screens, they
Right.
don't want any pads, they don't want any
Yeah.
technology, just a desk and pencils and pads of paper.
I love it.
But I think that there's something to be said for the child being involved because parents think they know their kids when it comes to their personalities and their world views and how they behave at school. But I found in all of my years in doing this, there is often a very gigantic chasm between what parents think and what children love when it comes to interior design.
That's so interesting.
We had one parent, she thought that her daughter wanted pink and yellow all over her bedroom. And the daughter hated pink.
Yeah.
And now, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not saying this for laughs, but I can say this effectively, several years later, her daughter is that goth girl.
I love it.
She has the whole,
Yeah, she's
so-
not a pink person.
Right, don't force your views onto your children. Let them flourish because they will flourish one way or the other.
That's right.
With or without you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
Well, I'm glad we have great designers like you out there. I'm thinking to myself about my professional posture on this versus what I let my kids do on their own home.
I don't mean to say that
I'll be
goth is
calling
bad.
you. I'll be calling you when my children are feeling enclosed in their non-selective boxes. I feel like, gosh, if there weren't many silver linings that came out of COVID, but we did learn something about the way that space truly influences us as individuals.
How we feel.
And how we feel, and how we interact with one another. I mean, I think that's one thing we can say that COVID taught us at large. And I think many of us in this room, our training and our experience, we have that knowledge, or we've gained that knowledge over time. But now our clients have it also in their own lived experience. And so I think more and more people are unwilling to really compromise around the space that is important to them, how they want to feel in those spaces. So I think that, I don't know if, you brought up COVID, which is perfectly fine to do. We can't go back to a time when we don't notice how we feel in a space at large, because we had to spend so much time confined in them.
Yeah.
So that was a gift.
Aimee, you mentioned earlier the notion of sort of multi-generation compounds and that sort of thing. But something that came up in some conversations over the past couple of weeks is that you have more clients who are sort of trying to figure out how, and again, maybe this is just over the last 5 years. We'll just leave it vague like that. How a space can work for just two people, a couple. And also how it can sort of live and work for, the entire family gathering somewhere, for example. Is that something you're seeing and doing more of these days?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's an increase. I think that's always somehow been part of our practice. I think as a particular, client comes to us because of the way that we approach our work and the kinds of architecture that we tend to develop, which is very site-specific and sort of client-specific. And again, that involves looking at precedents and great buildings that accommodated, big families on momentous occasions and small gatherings on the, day-to-day. So, we are finding, fairly uniformly, we don't have a lot of people coming to us saying, I want, one big room that does all the things all the time. I think people are really aware that, that you want to live in a house and, different rooms serve different purposes. You want to encourage, activity in certain kinds of rooms during certain times of the day because of where the sun is. So we're really, I think, focused on helping people live very full lives and wherever it is we're able to come together and craft something for them. And these, I shouldn't use the word compound because it sounds like, sort of something out in the middle of nowhere with like a fence. That's not generally what we're doing. But I do think, family retreats, whether they are seasonal or whether they're full-time. We've some clients who really just want everybody all together all the time. This sort of need to just draw near. And then there are others who say, I want to draw near, but I actually don't want them that near. So it's this like delicate
Close,
balance.
but
yes, but at the end of the day, you go over there.
Close, but with some distance.
Yes. So, but it's, I don't know. These puzzles are all wonderful and really fun to solve. And they're all just very much based on how our clients live.
Before we move on from kind of defining luxury today, the last question I wanted to ask is one that I've already asked both of you, and I was so intrigued by your responses, so I'm hoping you'll share it with everyone else today. But do you find regional differences in how people define luxury? You both work all over the country and even beyond our borders. So.
Absolutely. I think that the elements regionally dictate what a lot of people can and can't do.
Sure.
So our clients on the coast can do things with their homes that our clients in the Midwest simply cannot. Our clients in the South have access to weather patterns that last much longer than our clients in the Midwest, right? So I think that definitely has an impact on what they do. But I think that regardless of where they're located, the clients that we work with, they all want the same thing when it comes to luxury. They want a complete experience with their homes. All of our clients are, without exception, they all are extremely hospitable people. They're all about hosting. Many of them are deeply involved with various charities. They have philanthropic, endeavors. They're busy people in themselves. So each of these homes have to meet the need for them to host, and we have to design with that in mind. We had a lovely couple that we did a home for in Maryland on the Eastern Shore, and they are right on the waterfront. And they love to host, and they love to entertain people, and we want to put up this draped like enclosure on the veranda of their home, and we had to really be careful about how we installed that because of the elements, the weather, the winds that whip up through that waterfront would destroy everything that we would install. And so we had to make sure everything was extremely heavy, that the fabrics were not only indoor, outdoor treated, but had a certain weight to them, both as far as the fabric itself, the texture, and then also weights in the hem. And then we could secure it, in a safe way against the house when it was not in use. So we go through great lengths, and as long as the clients are willing to invest in the project, we'll take it there. But the weather does affect how they do it.
Oh, absolutely. It makes me think about sort of the flip side to that question, which is not, is luxury regional in terms of how it's expressed, but I think we're finding that we're working in more and more jurisdictions where the design guidelines are becoming more and more confined,
Oh,
confining and
interesting.
constricting.
Yeah.
And
Somewhat or influenced by environmental conditions?
and it's for good reason, right? They, these towns and municipalities want to sort of limit or at least mitigate the impact of property development on the landscape, and so we understand why these things are goods and they're necessary, but they add increasing pressure on the design solution to sort of conform in certain ways to the local requirements. So that makes the puzzle a lot richer, and it doesn't mean that you can't have comfort and luxury, because this is happening in many of the places that the people we work for want to be.
Sure.
And
yes.
so it is
Most
about
desirable
finding,
places.
yes, so whereas our clients on the coast, we have to kind of think about things and shape things differently, and maybe do more with less square footage, less space. Whereas in the Midwest, there isn't quite as many, our limits aren't quite there yet. And so
the mindset's different too.
conversely, yes, you have,
And the
yes.
mindset is
So you have, like a sort of jurisdictional modesty imposed in some places, and then, just kind of like I don't know, cultural modesty, maybe in some ways in the other regions.
And don't you feel that when we were judging this awards here, regional differences,
Yes.
right?
I think this is how this topic came up. We were talking
right?
about the judging.
It was really hard
Yeah.
for us to judge this process. I've been a judge for other events very similar to this in other parts of the country, and every part of the country is different when it comes to design. And that's not the fault of the designers. It's the designers can only go as far as their clients will allow them.
Yeah.
They can only spend what their clients are willing to invest. And so if the clients don't feel that it's important to go all out, the designers don't get the budgetary means to pull it off. So I've done some judging for some other, contests across the country where it went pretty quickly for me
Yeah.
because the work was giving, as the kids say now, it was giving mid. Right?
Yeah,
It was giving
my
mid.
13-year-old says that a lot.
It's giving mid.
Yeah.
I'm hip for the next 35 minutes.
That's right. Yeah.
But here in Atlanta,
It's not giving mid.
we spent hours and hours and hours, both individually and together as a panel, trying to figure out who was going to win this thing
Yes.
down here, because there was so much talent.
Yes.
The design was so thorough. It was so intricately weaved in every
People really
design
do
submission.
invest in their
they
homes.
They did it.
Yeah.
The designers brought it, and their clients allowed them to bring it,
Yeah.
which shows the difference of Atlanta metro and the surrounding regions compared to other parts of the country where design maybe is not top of mind.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Perfect segue to our next topic, which is, better home, better life. And this is such a kind of foundational principle for both of you. So bear with me, audience. I found some quotes from both of you that I'm going to go ahead and read. Aimee, you have said that good architecture can both elevate and deepen the lives that we lead and our relationships with people we love, live with, and work with. I love this. And I just was wondering if you could sort of elaborate a little bit on what you mean here. Like, how does good architecture really affect our relationships?
Gosh, I don't know. I think we've all been in bad spaces before, right? And maybe it's the what not to do that teaches us the most. But I really do think, as we contemplate our life's work and our gifts, those bestowed to us, am I using my time wisely? Am I doing good for the world? And of course, beauty is really important to me and to our practice. And so I think that is it's just a fundamental good and brings joy and health and happiness. But I think for me, when we hear back from clients about what it means to be in the place that we thought about together for a very long time, I do know about how their lives are better. I get glimpses into what that has meant for them, and their families, and the children's weddings on the lawn, and or even
Family holidays.
yeah, getting to go back sometimes years after we've finished, and sort of seeing the patterns of life have been set in, and there's just the fingerprints everywhere, and you just know that this is where life is being lived, and happy things are happening, and maybe sad things are happening too, but they're better able to cope and together, so, and the memories that are being made. I don't know, this is what brings me joy in my work, and why I want to keep doing it, because I can just imagine, it's the richness of life, and we get one. And so can I be part of making people's lives together, whether it's families or when you come to visit somebody in a house that you've just never quite seen before, and what that, what people take away from that experience into their own lives and their own expectations around quality and craft, and how it made them feel. And so therefore, wait, can I have that too?
And should I prioritize that?
And should I prioritize that? Yes.
Which leads me to, Corey, one of my favorite things that you've ever said, which is you're worth the investment. And I know that that came from one of your masterclass videos, but tell me a little bit about how that influences what you do and how you sort of shape your practice around that principle.
Well, I'll often tell our clients that you're worth the investment, because I do want them to not feel a sense of shame about spending on themselves. As Aimee mentioned, we're only here on this planet once, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
As far as we know. And while we're here, we have to really make that time count. And so there are times when clients want to invest in a certain way. Maybe it's, ordering a beautiful wall covering from de Gournay or Gracie, and there's a certain price point that comes with, hand-painted murals on that level.
Yeah.
And the client,
craftsmanship.
Or a piece of beautiful Hancock and Moore furniture, or Maitland Smith. These are not pieces that are cheap. They are well-made, 8-way hand-tied pieces of craftsmanship that can become heirloom quality if they're maintained. They can become the next wave of antiques, right, over the next 100 years or plus. So you have to convince the client that it's okay to splurge. You're not compromising your worldview as someone that is not caught up in name brands and not caught up in showing off. You can be authentic and still live a good life. But I do try to time when I have those conversations with our clients. When we say you're worth the investment, a big part of being a successful interior designer is also being a good fiduciary, understanding how money works. I always have my eye on what Wall Street is doing. I'm always watching how the stocks, how things are moving along. I only care from the angle of when to propose certain things to my clients.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because chances are they are also watching those lines, right? Yeah. And if I know that we're going into a certain situation, whether it be a recession or inflation jumping up, or then they lower the rates. It's like jump rope. Imagine two young ladies with one jump rope, and they are spinning the jump rope, and you have a third young lady basically timing her entrance on the jump rope. Designers have to learn how to time when we're going to bring up certain things to be successful. Yes. Because when you say you're worth the investment, I don't want them to feel that they have to choose between beauty and compromising other important things like putting away money for their children's college or other expenses that may be top of mind for them. It has to be a balancing act. So timing is crucial.
Yeah, that's really smart. Another thing that came up when we were sort of talking in advance of this conversation, and I think both of you talking about how you're really kind of stewards of what is frankly a big investment on behalf of your clients. Sometimes you mentioned fiduciary. It also takes on more of a psychological. You guys are so much more than just designing spaces, right? So,
they only paid
not
for one.
Not to really get in there. But how, to bring up another buzzword these days, how that really separates you from, say, AI platforms.
Yes.
I just wondered if you could comment on, AI and again, when you're talking about sort of really a very big investment on behalf of your clients and something that really will affect the rest of their lives, hopefully. How does that separate you all from something that an AI platform can do?
I ain't worried about AI.
Love it. You heard it here first.
Not in the least. No one can do what I can do.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right? And no one can do what you all can do. Yeah. We each have God-given gifts and abilities that are inculcated in you from birth, and you can wield them like magic. And artificial intelligence that we have created as humans is also at our beck and mercy to control. We have to control it versus letting it control us. To do interior design or to be an architect, we have to get into the psycho of the work. There's a lot of psycho. There's a lot of, when I say psycho, I mean like mental. I mean like psychology. And
emotion.
Right, because a person will have their personal trainer, their banker, their financial advisor. They have certain people who are close in their orbit, and then they have us. And we sometimes get the worst, the best and the worst of all the personalities. We are a service-oriented industry.
Yep.
People sometimes blur the lines between us being, we're not employees, we are partners, right? AI can't handle that. AI can't handle whatever is in the medicine cabinet as far as medications that people may be partaking, because people do, I'm saying that not to be funny, I'm saying it from the angle of, when you've worked with a client for many years, people go through things. People go through many changes in life. Children move out. People get divorced. Our physiques change. Our mental and emotional wealth and health changes. And you may be the designer that's with them the entirety of that whole journey. And I've worked with clients where they were a certain personality, one house. Things change, they get divorced, something else happens in life, and they are now in a completely different headspace for this house. So you can't be like, well, you never said that before, you never asked that way before. You have to recognize this is part of the journey of being human intelligence. And AI has no competition to that.
That's so important.
I think that's such an interesting way of thinking of it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way of
I
thinking
know.
about it.
I'm just guilty of sort of like looking the other way.
I am too.
I don't really want
just
to know
sort
too
of-
much about it.
Yeah.
I think, I can't really offer anything more than what Corey has just said, but my stint in academia, I taught design courses to undergraduates, eventually mostly upper level undergraduates and graduate studios. And so what I think Corey's talking about, this sort of agency in design that I don't really, I agree with you. I don't believe that something automated can do. I think I found this in my own teaching, where I would design a project. It had a site. It had the same program. Everybody got the same brief, but no single project ever came out the same.
Isn't that
Every
fascinating?
student, just brought their own perspective, their own worldview, their own precedents to it, their own solutions. So and vastly different solutions. But we're talking about the same site, the same hypothetical client, the same needs. Everything's defined. You know.
All the variables are.
They're all very controlled, but you never got the same thing, and across years. So I think that is really what makes us indispensable as humans. Like our minds are just far too sophisticated and individualized. And so I just don't see it happening. And if it does, I just want to be gone by now.
Then we're gonna really hope we only have that one life. I don't want to come back for another one.
No, stay and put wherever it is.
I'm telling you.
A little shift and pivot, because I think this is important to point out, both for your own credibility, my credibility, and just because of the way we live in 2024. But that isn't to say that you're not obviously working very closely and hand in hand with technological advances. And so this was another thing that we talked about a few weeks ago that just fascinated me. But how do you, as architects, designers, sort of stay abreast of the rapidly changing technological environment? You talked specifically about lighting, which I thought was so interesting.
Yes, no, I mean, I don't know. That's sort of what immediately comes to my mind, which is like light bulbs and lighting control.
Yeah.
These are things that seem to change every day.
Totally.
And then also, I think, again, increasing demands on envelope components to perform. So I'm thinking about like windows and doors.
Yep.
And so we are just we're fortunate to work with really talented consultants in lighting design and great vendor collaborators who are like willing to sort of get right in there with us and like
So important.
dig in and help us creatively solve this problem, because most of the time we're solving everything kind of the first time in a sense for these houses, and then we have this really incredibly talented young staff, and they know stuff.
which is so helpful. And they know when it's giving mid.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go look that up in the Urban Dictionary afterwards. I have no idea what that means. So I learn something every single day.
That's awesome. Have you found that maybe collaborating is even more important these days, or as things change?
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't really think it's possible to be sort of the keeper of all the knowledge anymore. I don't know how you feel, but
No, I don't want to be keeper of all the knowledge.
well, it also makes it boring. Like I want to work with Corey. I don't want to have to do all the things. I want to work together because he's going to teach me, and the outcome is going to be that much richer and better.
Totally.
Because we're in it, because we're doing it together.
Right, and that's also luxury.
Yes, totally.
For architects and designers to let their egos stay outside the workspace and to collaborate. We all can learn from each other. You know, we are working with a lovely architectural team that sent us a 3D tour of a home that we're about to start working on in Ohio. And it was awesome because I had not physically been in the house yet.
That's great.
And they sent us this, I think it's called Manaport.
Oh yeah.
Matterport?
Yeah, Matterport.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it gave me a snapshot into what we're about to get involved with. So I don't have to have all the answers. Our staff, as talented as they are, they don't have everything. They don't know everything. And like to your point, they're young and they are on the cusp of what's the freshest, newest technology out there. They'll come into my office and they'll say, Corey, I really want to purchase this software. I want to get this. This is the new hot thing.
That's
I'm
so
always
cool.
like, what do the Google reviews say? How many stars does it have? How much money am I about to spend on this? But 9 times out of 10, they're going to get what they want because I want them to be happy and on the cutting edge of technology. So you just have to be humble. You know, being humble is one of the most important skill sets you can have as a designer, as an architect in the creative space. Because humility provides the foundation for everything else to grow. And when you have ego and you have this competitive, fierce fear of losing ground to others, it stifles the entire project's momentum, and then no one wins.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
if your staff says, I
Certainly not
want
the
more
client.
tech, give them the tech, support them. If they fail, you know, you pick them up and say, okay, we try better next time, and I'm cutting that subscription tomorrow.
We're no longer using that.
That's right.
Because it's giving mid.
Giving mid.
One final question before I invite the audience to ask you all their questions, but I always like to kind of end on a forward-looking note. So what do you think is the kind of next frontier for luxury in residential design?
Okay.
Who has a crystal ball?
Ohio.
Might be
I
Ohio.
love Ohio.
Yeah, I do too.
Cedar Point.
Oh my goodness. Forward thinking in luxury.
Here's a for example, another buzzword that we haven't really touched on is sustainability and that sort of thing. Are we looking at new materials? Are we looking at sort of more circularity at home and sort of upcycling and that sort of thing? I don't know if you have a point of view on these kind of.
Yeah, I think it's actually something I spent a lot of my time in academia thinking about, which is, how can we together sort of influence the marketplace, right? Because it's, common sense sort of tells us that regional supply chains are a little bit more, dependable. I think COVID taught us for sure with the global supply chain.
You can source as
how fragile
close as
things
possible.
are. And also, the closer in you can get things, and closer you can keep them to your work, the smaller the footprint of your work.
For sure.
And I think it's this delicate balance between, yes, wanting to bring things over from France, how do you pack things, maybe as economically as possible to get them across, keep them here, and then keep them moving around.
Right.
I think that's, I wish that there were the tools yet for us to do that in a way that's credible and that we could tell our clients they can feel, they can depend on.
The credibility, I think, is key.
Yeah, that you're not just sort of selling them some vision of sustainability that really can't be mated out in the data. But I do think that is something that we are just, we are going to be having to increasingly consider over time. What is it going to look like in 10 years to get things from one side of the U.S. to another? There are things, there are forces out there in motion now that I think really will impact and influence our work. And so, ultimately, though, to me, luxury is always just, it's really about listening to our clients, really learning about who they are and what makes them happy and, where their happiness is, and then shaping spaces in an enduring and meaningful way around
enduring
their
and
particular lives. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I would say that our clients and designers at large, I think, are really embracing the beauty of what we already have available when it comes to sustainability. I think about antiquity, for example. Antiques and vintage pieces are now so much more valuable than they have been in recent years, because when the pandemic hit and we couldn't get furniture, newly made for a while, or at least within the lead times that we were accustomed to, people turned to vintage pieces. And there's a story there that I think clients began to fall in love with.
Totally.
That not everything in my house is brand new, but there's actually provenance present in every room. There's pieces that I've recovered, and this frame is from 1893, and it's still here in 2024. And look at how gorgeous it has survived and endured. And I think that speaks to where humankind is really moving. I think that we went through a chapter in our lives before 2020 where there was a lot of homogeny. Everyone was doing the same thing in many regards. So many people were following the direction of these large catalogs that would arrive on their doorsteps, and they would do everything in this taupey gray, cream, beige thing. And I know many of you know as well, because we're now tearing all of those interiors out.
Yeah.
And that went on for about 20 years. So you think about it cyclically, you had mauve and hunter green, right, in the 80s and 90s, and then in the aughts, we went into gray and beige, cream and neutrals. Now, it's about color, it's about pattern, it's about texture and mixing and matching things and having an eclectic, exuberant approach to design.
More individualized.
More individually, more individualized, more personality, and I think that trend is going to continue to grow and flourish. So what we have to do as a design community is be willing to embrace this next wave of individuality. If we're going to be charging these design fees, we have to show the clients why we're creating for them a luxurious experience that's going to transform their lives and their orbits in such a way that sets them apart from all their neighbors, all their friends, and all their family, and that gives them the biggest and best investment for their futures. And again, AI can't do that. That's something that only we as other humans can provide to our fellow human neighbors.
I love that.
Yeah.
Nice ending point, and then time to turn it over to the audience for questions. Yes, and I think we have a microphone.
Let me bring that
Katie's going here first, but we'll come to you next.
Hi, thank y'all so much for this morning. I was feeling kind of run down, and I feel so energized being here instead of tackling my endless to-do list. Thank you. My question is a little funny because I'm more of a design enthusiast, I would say. My name is Elizabeth Cook, and I have a smaller home that I have tried to add personality and individuality to. You are never the oldest person when you walk into my home. It is filled with estate sale finds inside and outside. But I've recently been approached by hosting, larger functions at my home. I love to entertain. I am somebody that says, come on over, and I'd love the 75 people, but my home is small. And so now I'm do you feel like a host can carry a large function at their home, or are there creative solutions when you don't actually have that floor space to enhance your surroundings so everybody feels comfortable and at ease and feel like you can still host a lovely function?
Are you based here in Atlanta?
I am.
Atlanta Metro, okay. So what you can do is, instead of having a large dinner party where it's seated, you can always graduate to a roving party where people are standing, have hors d'oeuvres, light bites, drinks on trays. Let it spill out from the house outside if you have an exterior background, backyard or terrace space. Even the front of the house, depending upon how it's staged, you can have on your front porch stations for hors d'oeuvres and drinks. People can kind of come up into the moment. Don't forget fresh florals and all the elements. It's all about the presentation. If you have music, for example, live music, or something that is set up that is performing throughout the house, and you don't have a sit-down dinner, people don't feel cheated if they have ambiance. have candles lit, fresh florals, the music. People can be standing, help themselves, spill out, spill in, outside, inside, and then get them out to go home.
Maybe ambiance is,
It's a great answer.
ambiance is also luxury, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just designing your event to your space. I think your house is probably perfect for an event. But it's just designing the event, like Corey says, to your space. And it makes me think about, sometimes when you have a smaller room and doesn't have great natural light, you just embrace that. And so maybe you make it a sort of a cozy, moodier space, right? Because that's what it is. And so I think, maybe it's not a day event, maybe it's in the evening. And so you just kind of hide the corners. If you're worried that the house isn't going to feel big enough to accommodate everyone, make it small, make it intimate, get people close together. I don't know who you're inviting and if that's appropriate, but it's a way to think about, I love your mentality seems to be like, I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to buy the things that I love. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to invite people to my house, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So just do that. I think that's life, and good luck.
And I'll just add one tip to this, because what you all said reminded me of a story we did with Alessandra Branca where she hosted a fork party. And what this means is just food that you just need a fork for. You don't need to cut anything, and that way people can stand up and walk around.
Yeah, and go
So
home.
I've
And then
kept
go
that in
home.
mind.
Yes,
And then go home.
please
You ain't got to
Put
go
their
home.
fork
You
away
get out of here.
Up at the door.
Dirty forks here.
Yes, yes.
You had a question.
Yeah, hold on, I'm coming to you.
Katie wants it. Yeah, she wants it on the microphone.
Hi. Mr. Jenkins, you had mentioned earlier about the role of change amongst your client's journey and how, moving, divorce, kids moving out, how you have had to accommodate that. And so my question pertains to both of you all. While you talk about accommodating your clients for that, in what way do you feel that these changes in their journey have impacted your creativity and your craftsmanship as designers? How have you been able to rediscover things about yourself, rediscover latest techniques or latest ideas or talents within your design in order to accommodate your clients on their journey? Thank you.
I think for clients that I've worked with and have done multiple homes with over multiple years, the first house, the maiden voyage, if you will, is always the probably most conservative of all the designs because they're stepping their toe into the design process. And by the time we've done a second or third home, they're much more adventurous because they know that it's going to work and the house of cards is not going to fall, and they can splurge a bit more and be a bit more adventurous. But I think the biggest, one of the biggest rewards for me in working with these projects and with these clients over periods of years is also building up my own self-esteem as a creative. We're very different than plumbers or electricians. We are not governed 100% by code. Yes, a chandelier has to be installed a certain way, a tub must be this way, a toilet must face this way, but we traffic in the realm of opinions and possibilities. And so in that realm, there's a lot of opportunity for people to have different opinions and for certain personal elements to be introduced that can rub you the wrong way as an individual, as an artist. And so what I've learned is the importance of recognizing to protect my own emotional enamel, not taking things personally, and that's not easy to do, especially when people perhaps don't agree with your vision or what you want to do as a designer. And then being willing to, again, be humble to pivot when the client wants to go in a different direction. Recognizing and remembering it has nothing to do with you. It's not your house. It's also not your money. And sometimes designers get this little feather thing. They flare up when the client tells them they don't want to do something.
Yeah.
We as designers should never create an environment where the client is afraid to speak up. It's not about us. And we have got, and I'm just saying this because I'm going into masterclass levels now from my teaching thing. We have got to check our egos at the door. Yeah. Because we're getting a little, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying as an industry, I hear things, I can't tell you how many clients have come to me that have worked with other designers that have been broken by the experience. No. We have got to take it down a few notches, be a bit more humble, be a bit more grateful, and at the same time, be balanced and not allowing people to take advantage of us, take us for granted. We are not employees, we are partners. And that is the evolution of the process when you're working with projects for a long period of time.
So helpful.
That's great. Gosh, I don't want to be broken.
Oh, she's running.
Amazing.
I'm always curious about the genesis of careers and the spark that leads you to what you're doing now, the beautiful work that you're both doing now. So would you mind giving us a bird's eye view of the events in your life that led you to this work, that led you to knock on that 779th door, and to keep pushing when things inevitably get difficult?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I feel like I have that stereotypical, 10-year-old story where I just did nothing but played Legos, And yeah, I mean, so I think, I don't know, for better or for worse, I've always had sort of a tunnel vision about becoming an architect. And once I, sort of realized that you could take, kind of piles of inanimate objects, and this is through the lens of me seeing a lot of construction going on around me where I grew up and kind of breaking into every job site I could. It really was so fascinating to me that somebody, took kind of this idea, wood and windows and like some stuff over there and is the reason why those things put together in a certain way function and are beautiful. And so then, fast forward that many years through architecture school, and I think some very, wonderful and serendipitous kind of career events and choices. I find myself here today in this room with all of you. I think I had actually a couple early experiences in the profession that made me feel like I'd made the wrong choice. And gosh, to think like, I've been thinking about this since I was 10 years old. Like, what am I going to do now? And I think in life, many times you learn more from the what not to do or it's sort of the experience that exposes you to something, how you will never treat your own staff if you ever have one,
right.
How you will never, do X, Y, or Z. But I was in a particularly sort of challenging point in my early career, and I heard that Gil Schaefer was thinking about hiring somebody. And did I know anyone with 10 years of experience who might be looking for a new job? And I was like, well, I have two.
I know.
So I wasn't 779 doors, but because I think this was pre-internet, it seems to be in my memory. I went and knocked on that door and spoke to Gil, and I basically said like, hey, I know you're looking for somebody with more experience than I have on paper, but I'm willing to do anything. I don't know if somebody with 10 years of experience is willing to like make all the photocopies and make the coffee. And I'm like, do you drink coffee? I'll learn how to make some. I don't know. And somehow, I convinced him that like, look, I'm going to get down in the trenches with you. We're going to figure all this stuff out. And I'm not going to have any ego about it. And sort of getting in on the ground floor to a company with somebody who just had sort of an unyielding commitment to being exceptional from the outset. It taught me so much. And of course, I had my meanders, into academia and back. But gosh, I don't know. I think it is still that same fascination with the way things go together and how when we craft things that seem, unrelated, we really can make something beautiful and meaningful and impactful.
And I would say, and you'll see a lot of my life story in the first chapter of my book, so I won't go into all those details here, but I will say that one of the things I mentioned in the book was a statement that I kept in my mind that kind of sustained me while I was knocking on all those doors, because I had lost my job during the Great Recession. I was going through financially a complete overhaul because I thought I was going to retire from my previous position, having been there for about 10 years, and then now being left out in the cold along with thousands of others in Michigan during the Great Recession. But there's a statement that I lived by, and it was, never listen to the voices that come to you at night, that try to talk you out of all the wonderful things that you can achieve when you wake up. And I think that that is something that really kept my head above water emotionally as I was trying to navigate back to my career of interior design. The other thing I'll say is this: I started my career in interior design and pursuing it and studying it back in 1996. So in '96, I was set to become an interior designer. When I moved back to Michigan, I lived in my dad's household. His whole thing was get a real job. And I did the real job as an automotive purchasing buyer for 10 years. And then I got laid off. And then I went back to interior design. So to our earlier point, listen to your children. I told my dad when I was 7 or 8 that I wanted to do this, and they thought they could somehow deprogram me to become something else. And yet here I am. So let your children thrive, listen to them, and know that whatever they are intending to do, there is nothing that you as parents can really do to outsmart or outmaneuver your child if they have their hearts and minds set on a certain dream or goal.
We are going to be chairpeople of the Parents of Future Architects and Designers Society.
I love it.
Because my parents were also like, oh no, you're not doing that.
Last quick question.
How often do you find your clients requesting of either of you to fully accessorize a project all the way down to flatware and towels? And do you think it helps create a more well-rounded luxury experience in the home for your clients? And do you even enjoy that?
I love this question.
Yes. We definitely are deeply involved with every aspect of the furnishing process. We sit down with the client at the very beginning of the process of the project and set aside a budget for those things. Those are not what we call odds and ends. Those are what we call functionality. And you have to package it that way for the client. There's no point in doing a de Gournay wrapped dining room and all of this beautiful high-end furniture if you have a lack of flatware or other items to actually enjoy the space. So we set aside a budget for that. Towels, runners, all the accoutrement. Even when it comes to bathrooms, designing, or purchasing whatnots to put the DOP kit on those guest rooms and to put the toothpaste, thing on the shelf, right? You have to allot time and space and budget for that. Any good designer understands that that's part of the functionality of the space, and you don't want to leave it to the homeowner to figure that out, because when you come back later and you see they've done it on their own, it might not really jive with the vision and actually may destroy their investment as far as your vision not being fully fleshed out. Do I enjoy it? Yeah. But I do enjoy it, but I will tell you this, I will often take our clients, I'll take my client with me to go shopping. We will go to these stores, we'll go look at the flatware, we'll look at the dishes, and then we get lunch and we discuss what we've found. We make it like a field trip,
That's fun.
sightseeing thing,
Yeah.
right. And it's actually very enjoyable, but don't forget to do it. It's important.
That's great advice.
And our office does it too. I mean, I think oftentimes people don't associate our firm with interiors, but we have an interiors department.
Yes.
And we finish out many of our projects, but we also really love collaborating with interiors and decorators. And but I think it's in the projects that I've been involved in, where that's part of the process, I think it's very much part of the overall composition. And I think, as Corey is saying, there's a early Renaissance theorist who said, composition is complete when there's no one thing that you can add or take away without, the whole thing kind of falling apart.
Totally.
And I think, so that we're not feeling like we're controlling everyone's, down to their last, thread on a chair and every piece. Of course, we want to design things that people can bring their things to, and we can collaborate to sort of come to a sort of compositional conclusion, but oftentimes, yes, we're seeing it all the way through, and that is really joyful work. I mean, how do you not want to be involved in picking out all the things?
It can be time consuming,
But
but
you have
also
wonderful
ask the
staff.
clients, do they have something
Yeah,
that,
even
that
if
their
you're working with
grandmothers
what they
passed
have.
down,
Yeah.
right? If she has like a huge dishware collection from her great grandmother. Sometimes clients, especially when they're younger, they want to get rid of those things. And I'm like, don't you dare get rid of, that's Tiffany, or whatever the case may be. That is some beautiful high-end jewelry that you don't want to spend money on now, so you already have it. lean into it and have a story to tell around the dining room table. These dishes were used by my great-great-grandmother. That's provenance. That
Well, and
is,
it may inspire
yes,
the decoration of the dining room.
exactly. So yeah, lean into it.
Great question.
That's luxury.
Yeah, that's luxury.
That's luxury.
That is luxury.
Okay, thank you all. And
Well,
Got it.
that was fun. Thank you.